For close to 20 years, our community has had a gathering. And this is our second year inviting all of you within our community of members to the gathering. We're deciding that this gathering, this annual virtual event, is called Vivid. And our theme this year is tapestry. And I take so to heart and so seriously, you almost can't imagine how much I eat, sleep, and dream the curriculum. Imagine the opportunity to bring new ideas that matter to hundreds of people. And this year, all genders, all fluidity, everybody's welcome to come. And we're designing the curriculum to work for everyone, yet go deep into these ideas. The idea of tapestry is very much about pattern and about reweaving pattern and about wiring ourselves for love. And so as I've been painting and exploring and asking and being in inquiry and meditating and doing the intentional creativity coherence meditation and asking, what can we bring to our community that could be life-changing? Not just a fun, amazing painting class like we do every time, but like, what could actually change things? What could move us as a community to a new place? And when I think about that, I think about love. And when I think about love, I think about the problem with love. I think about the limits and the constraints that we have as humans at this time, where we're so focused on ourselves and ours and our 3-car garage and our washer and dryer and our job and our lineage and our heritage and our this and our that, that we are so focused on just trying to keep our own little act together that the capacity to really think beyond our own family and block and neighborhood is sometimes fragmented. And I would like our community to develop a new headset, a new heart set, a new gut set, which allows us to love unreasonably. But I don't know how we're going to do that, but we're going to try. Right, Jonathan?
Yeah.
You're going to help me?
Yeah, I just want to know where the 3-car garage is. You said my 3-car garage. I'm like,
we don't have one of those.
Are you holding out on me? Like, what's going on?
I don't know where that came from.
Hi, everybody.
Everyone, Jonathan.
That's me.
So Jonathan and I are going to be teaching together in this Vivid, and our class is called Tapestry, and our focus is around rewiring the brain.
That's right. That's where I come in. And so, as you might know, in intentional creativity, we really, really try to not just thematically, not just not just sort of euphemistically, but we really work hard to attach solid, tested, clinically provable, as much science as we can possibly bring in to understand, even though we're getting what I call a soft result, which is like an emotional or spiritual result, which is only defined by you and the work that you do for yourself. And we can't predict what that result is, but by knowing the mechanisms that are in play, both from a quantum mechanics standpoint, from an energy movement standpoint, and actually just from electromechanical and magnetism of the body and how it works. All these things help us to build sort of a lexicon of understanding why these things have the opportunity to work within the field that they're working. And so that really is the important part of, really, that's kind of like the anchor that I hold, right, is to make sure that, you know, in the brass tacks way of saying it is that we're not wasting our time. Now, of course, we're not wasting our time. But when I say wasting our time, what I mean is, if this is going to have perpetuity, if this is going to have teeth for the future, if this is really going to have traction and be scalable and be meaningful, it really has to have a foundation in laws with a capital L, like gravity and inertia and things like that, and also rules with a capital R, meaning that we don't know exactly what results will be, but we do know that results will occur.
Right.
And so in that way, it remains experimental and it remains theoretical, although we have results every time. So we can't predict outcomes, but we can certainly build a framework for the science that makes all these wonderful, beautiful precipitates happen.
I love that. And I haven't filmed the class yet, so we're still in the exploration phase, but we wanted to invite you into it now as we're exploring. And should I tell them my theory?
Go for it.
I'm sure it's not only my theory, but for me, these theories sort of arise organically from my own soul space and dreaming space, and then I go do the research or ask him to.
At least she doesn't wake me up at 5 o'clock in the morning anymore. Wake up, I got a theory. Oh, yeah?
Well, some of you may or may not know, but I actually have been in recovery. I've been sick for a couple months, and my physical body was very challenged, but I found that my brain was clear, which was kind of interesting. And so I was really able to spend time both in my body and in my brain and looking at the disconnect. And a lot of what I did was the intentional creativity coherence meditation, something we do in our community where we connect the heart with the brain, with the gut, with the hands and feet and field, and just really creating coherence by a conscious choice. But as I, over these months, I'm swimming, exercising, and doing the coherence meditation, it was just so clear to me to reestablish the reconnection between heart, brain, and gut. And as I did that, I started noticing different kinds of thoughts. I started noticing different kinds of sensations. I started noticing different kinds of intuition, impulse, and also a desire to share what was coming through. So my theory, not just based on my own experience, but my theory is that over the past couple thousand years, we have sort of adapted out of a kind of tribal cultural thought that is inclusive of the larger circle that isn't just at our campfire. And it's happened out of necessity, out of survival. And we've had world wars and plagues and famines and just all kinds of crazy stuff that our ancestors had to work our way through, where we're just like, just protect what we can, just protect what we can. But something has been lost, and it's pretty obvious when you think of allowing ourselves to poison our food or poison our water, or thinking we're in a democracy, but our votes don't actually reflect what the people say. Like, it's weird, right? We've devolved in a way as we've adapted. But my theory is that the way that our brain, heart, and gut are wired could be rewired for more consciousness and more compassion and more connection. But we have to choose. And so I want Jonathan to help me develop the science. I'm
Right?
sure other people are doing this. I'm not saying I originated this, but I haven't looked at them yet. This is fresh. This is me fresh. What if we made a painting?
Yeah.
Combined with the science and technology of how to rewire the brain.
Yeah.
And we painted in practice toward that.
Mm-hmm.
And then made those connections ourselves. Could we do that?
Well, certainly you could. And a couple of things have come up for me while you were speaking. One is an interesting phrase which I love called "so what, now what," right? And so yes, we've arrived at this sort of interesting point, right? Well, so what? But now what? And the now what is usually precipitated by critical mass, or it's precipitated by this gestalt moment where you go, if we keep doing what we've been doing, we're going to keep getting what we've been getting. And that hasn't turned out so well, so maybe we need to mix it up a little bit. So there's that. And the second point is not really the what's in it for me or what's in it for you category, but everything we do here is never, in my estimate, never meant to provide an answer to anything. There's no answers in any of this.
Practices.
What happens is, certainly there's practices and certainly there's ways of thinking and ways of accessing information. But what this does is creates a field or a container within which questions can arise that will allow you to pilot and author your own decision making in a way that's much more aware and with very different and very beautiful and changing access to ways of thinking and being that can potentially help you pilot your life or author your life, at least the story or relationship you have with it, in a very different way. And so I think there's some ancillary benefits, like the secondary benefits, which will be, your circles, right? Yourselves, your intimates, your family, your friends, your community, your nation, world, universe, all those nested canonical hierarchies, right? They're all going to get some benefit somehow, but you have to be the change that you want to see in the world. And so in that, we can't make you change. We can, There's no enticements. There's none of that stuff. But what we feel and what we believe based on our experience is that if you are to entertain these questions and create a container within which answers can arise for yourself, by yourself, then you will have a way of working with being serviceable. You will become serviceable. You'll become in relationship with all of the things that happen outside of this package in such a way that you'll have more resilience. You'll have more depth of knowledge. You'll have more ways of thinking across different platforms, which is really an interesting way to stitch together genius.
A tapestry.
Is to call different things together, and therefore that's what the tapestry connection is, right? So there are different materials, there are different ways of working, there's different, certainly colors, textures. It's not a two-dimensional canvas like up and down and left and right. When you press on it, right, that's like a tympanic membrane, like your eardrum or a drum, right? And so there's all kinds of ways to consider these things as resonators and informants to a way of being and acting that could be, for you, a distinct change.
I love that. So what do you think? How about that? Rewiring the brain, heart, and gut for coherence in and amongst themselves with the intention of increased amplified compassion. And Jonathan asked me, well, even though we're addressing the whole what's in it for me mentality of our current Anthropocenic framework, he said, well, what is in it for them? And I said, the capacity to give and receive more love than we have now. And here's the other piece of that. When we're not living into this greater compassion, which is beyond your ordinary, you care if someone else is sick or if someone else's house burned, like that's like ordinary caring. But like I'm talking about like a kind of unreasonable compassion where you actually feel sensations of love for others who are joyful or suffering. And when you're able to go into that next place, which all spiritual traditions lean toward and attempt at, when you go there, there is a kind of a joy, a kind of a peace, a kind of a bliss that is not available at the lesser levels of compassion. And I know this because this entire community is created out of that additional place of love that I personally feel and share with many of you, that's been amplified by the kind of love and compassion and caring and connection that I was raised with, that created a space of love that I wanted to express beyond, well, I could just be painting my own paintings and selling my own paintings, but wow, what if I could actually teach people to do what I'm doing instead of just them purchase my paintings? Like, and then what if I could teach them to do it for themselves? And then what if I could teach them to teach others to do it for themselves? It's an exponential kind of thing that ends up happening and that has its own momentum. All of us are available for this, but we have adapted out of it. But I think we can evolve consciously together as a community. My first tagline for my business in my 20s was art for evolution. And I feel like I'm kind of coming full circle to that. Like, what if we could evolve as a community?
I think evolve is a little bit of a big word, although it doesn't
evolution.
Doesn't generally take that many generations. But there's a couple of things that have occurred to me while you were speaking, which is, okay, so I think we can kind of uniformly agree, especially with younger generations, that we're in a get mine zone, right? I'm going to get mine. As long as I've got mine, then I'm good, and I'm not going to bother anybody, and I'm not going to leave my pod, my circle, my this, my that. And certainly the pandemic and other factors have uniquely in the history of our species divided us.
Oh my gosh.
Right? Technology, although is unbelievably, the possibilities for increased knowledge are amazing, it has also stripped us of any need for community and isolated us worse than it ever has. So everything that you read now, if you read down a couple of paragraphs, not the headlines, right? When it comes to climate change, it says no person is an island. It comes to cleaning the air, cleaning the water, cleaning the seas, cleaning the food, cleaning the air, all the cleanings, right, that are now polluted, toxic, blah, blah, blah. No person is an island. This is going to take something that we actually have in store, which is collaboration and cooperation. But collaboration and cooperation don't work without a reward system. That's the way it is. But the reward system that we're inferring goes beyond utility. Intentional creativity goes always beyond utility. It isn't something, okay, the air's clean, great. But in the process of cleaning the air from a collaborative and cooperative standpoint, we will necessarily build relationships, have more resilience as a community instead of as an individuals. If you think you can be a doomsday prepper and go out on a mountain and stand there and while everyone else perishes, it's just not possible. We're all
In it.
intricably, is that a word?
Inextricably?
Something like that. Connected, right?
Yeah, we
We're
are.
all stitched at the hip because if they take one of us out, they're going to take all of us out.
Yeah.
And that's just the way this works. So the reason that we've got ourselves in this mess is collaboration and cooperation, right? Beyond our insular groups. And the way we're going to get ourselves out of it is the same way. But it's going to take that because one person or a small group of people, even though they can affect change at an increasingly greater scale because of the communication practices we have, all that stuff, no person is an island. And so we better start working on those skills.
Yeah.
We got to start working on those skills now. Doesn't infer intimacy, doesn't mean anything weird or unnatural or unsophisticated. It just means that compassion piece is a part of cooperation and collaboration, because that's sort of the static image out here, right? It's sort of a mathematical model. Well, are they collaborating? Are they cooperating, right? But on the ground level, for two people to collaborate and cooperate, they need to be in relation with one another. And that relationship has to be functional, and it has to be desired. And if it isn't, we're going to end up digging our hole deeper.
Mm. And so we don't know what the future holds, you all, but we know that right here in this community, we are going to make an effort to have compassionate, collaborative, connected, conscious community right here. And whatever ends up happening,
Somebody's got to do it.
yeah. and whatever ends up happening, the behavior of the heart, the mind, and the gut, and the body, and the field that go along with believing that regenerative nature is possible for the earth and for us, however we are about it, is a better way than being in despair and being hopeless and being pissed all the time. So, in true...
You can do that all day. In spades, it's free. You can mope. It's fine. Yeah.
So in true intentional creativity forum, we're actually going to paint this new potential.
Aha! Transferring energy into form. It's going to be a biggie.
Yeah. So we're inviting you to join us for this experiment and experience. The mad scientist and the wild artist come together.
There we are.
All right. See you there.
Until then.
Thanks.